Itunu lay on her wooden bed, staring at the broken ceiling. The rain has found its way through the rusted zinc again. Cold water dripped steadily, splashing on her legs and soaking her thin wrapper. She didn't bother to move. Her whole body was tired, not just from lack of sleep, but from a life full of struggle and sacrifice. She looked helplessly at her 6 siblings, laying on a dirty mat, all cuddled up. Their small one-bedroom apartment was all their mother, Madam Obi, could provide for them from selling fufu. Her hands were always white with cassava flour. She worked hard, pounding, frying, selling, but it was never enough. Their father, he was hardly ever around, and when he was, he came back drunk, angry and useless. He didn't work. He blamed the government, blamed his past, blamed everyone but himself. They lived in an old, overcrowded Face Me, I Face You building, with peeling walls and a narrow corridor lined with tiny rooms. 10 families shared one filthy toilet at the back, a shaky zinc shed that smelled from far away. The gutter in front was full of dirty water, leftover food and nylon floating around. Clothes hung on ropes stretched between windows, dripping into the buckets. Flies buzzed, children cried. The smell of kerosene and soaked waste filled the air. It was noisy, cramped, and always a little wet. In their place, there was no privacy, and every day felt like a battle. As Itunu was still thinking, her phone rang. It was Madam Shortcut Stitches. "Itunu, I have a job for you. If you can come to the shop now, it's overnight work," the voice said quickly. "I'm coming, ma," she replied and got up at once. She dressed up and ran through the west streets of Lagos to Madam Shortcut's sewing shop. Her legs were tired, but she didn't stop. The sky was still dark and the road was quiet, except for the splashing of her slippers on the wet floor. When she arrived, Madam Shortcut handed her some fabric to trim and fold. She pressed, sewed, and cleaned until morning. Her eyes were red, but she said nothing. When the work was done, Madam Shortcut gave her 1,000 naira. "Take this and manage it," the woman said. "Thank you, ma," Itunu replied. She held the money tightly in her hand. Her legs felt weak, but she didn't go home yet. She walked towards Mile 12 Market. There, she saw a woman offloading bags of onions from a truck. "Auntie, can I help you arrange them?" Itunu asked. "Are you sure you know how to walk fast?" the woman asked. "Yes, ma, I can do it well." The woman agreed, and Itunu carried baskets of onions from the truck into the small store. By the time the sun was high, her clothes were soaked in sweat and the smell of onions. The woman gave her 700 naira. Itunu used 300 to buy gari and 200 to buy small pepper, seasoning cubes and a little pomo. She kept the rest and headed home. When she entered their small room, her mother was sitting on a low stool pounding cassava in a big basin. Her 6 siblings were still sleeping, their legs tangled together like fish in a basket. "You are just coming back now?" Madam Obi asked without looking at her. "Yes, ma," Itunu said quietly. "Give me the money." Itunu stretched out her hand and gave her the money. Her mother counted it, shook her head and frowned. "Is this all? Can't you see the twins are coughing? Don't you know kerosene has finished? You walk around every day and this is all you can bring back." "I will try again tomorrow, ma," Itunu said softly. "Try? Try for what? Can we eat try? You need to find a better work that brings more money. Your father is not helping anymore." From that day, Itunu began to take any job she could find. In the morning, she hawked pure water with tray on her head. She ran after buses calling out, "Pure water, cold pure water," until her voice cracked by afternoon. She swept a woman's shop and earned 300 naira. Sometimes the woman gave her a small biscuit and a bottle of malt. In the evening, she helped Madam Shortcut sew clothes. At night, she helped the food seller wash plates and clean the kitchen. One day, she even helped a neighbor clean a gutter and got 500 naira. But no matter how hard she worked, her mother always asked for more. Tochi needs new slippers. Ego school bag is torn. We don't have seasoning cubes. No kerosene, no food. Every time Itunu brought back money home, it was not enough. One day, she braided someone's hair in front of the compound and earned 1,500. She used part of the money to buy bread, akara, and fish stew. She wanted her siblings to eat well for once. As she walked through the corridor of their Face Me, I Face You house, she heard coughing from the nearby toilet. It was a deep choking sound. She walked closer and gently opened the zinc toilet door. Her youngest sister Tochi was inside vomiting. "Tochi," Itunu shouted, running to her. "What's wrong?" She carried her sister and ran back into their room. Their mother jumped up. "What happened to her?" She is hot and vomiting, Itunu said, frightened. She's sick. Go to the pharmacy and buy medicine. But I don't have money, Itunu said. Then go and find it. Borrow, beg, do whatever you can. Don't just stand there, her mother said. Itunu ran from door to door in the building. Some neighbors gave her 100 naira. Others had nothing to give. One man looked at her in a strange way and said, "Come to my room later. I can help you." She walked away quickly and kept looking. Finally, she gathered enough to buy paracetamol, malaria tablets, and one injection. That night, she stayed awake, using a small towel and cold water to reduce Tochi's fever. She kept whispering prayers. By morning, Tochi was feeling better, but Itunu had not slept. She felt like she could fall at any moment. For every time Itunu complained to her mother, Madam Obi, she never listened to her. "Why are you complaining?" her mother would ask. "Are you not my firstborn child? Who is supposed to take care of your siblings?" Madam Obi would gaslight her and start crying. "If only I married a good man. Will this stupid girl who is supposed to work hard to help me train these children have the guts to talk to me? Itunu, your mates are buying cars for their parents, and you are here complaining about just helping out in the house." Itunu would apologize to her mother, but she was drained. She couldn't do much for herself as all the money she earned went to taking care of her family. One fateful day, Itunu got desperate. She needed to make it or die trying. She thought of any more means to make more money, but her head was blank. As she walked past Ugo Street carrying a bowl of pure water on her head, she saw a poster on the wall written, "Workers needed. Call this number." Itunu stared at the poster for some time and thought to herself, it could be a good paying job. And without hesitation, she copied the number. The next morning, as soon as Itunu woke up, she called the number and a man spoke at the other end of the phone. "Good morning," Itunu stuttered. "I got your number from one of your posters. I need a job. Please, come to 16 John Street, Iko by 4 p.m. today and call this number when you get there." Just before Itunu could ask what the nature of the job was, the line hung up. Itunu's eyes widened. This didn't seem right, but she had no choice but to try. So by 3 p.m., she wore her best skirt and a black shirt she had bought from Bend Down Select. As she was about stepping out of the house, her mother, Madam Obi, snapped, "You have worn white and black as if you will bring back any reasonable money to this house. Make sure to come back here with money," she said. Itunu didn't utter a word. She just left, hopped on a bike and was on her way to 16 John Street, Iko. As she approached, the house was a very beautiful mansion. The owner, Mrs. Ada, welcomed Itunu in. She looked her stern in the face and said, "Just one job, and one job only. Come with me," she said. She took Itunu into a room. On the door of that room was written, "Baby Naga." Madam Ada knocked on the door just before opening it. As they walked in, a large black cobra snake rolled on the large bed. Itunu screamed in a large voice as she made a run for the door. But as she ran down the stairs with fear, a man who we think is Madam Ada's husband held her hand and said, $100,000 for every single day you keep Baby Naga company. He doesn't bite, he's friendly, and trust me, he will never harm you. Think about it." Itunu snatched her hand from him and kept running. She dashed to the gate. A lonely road was in front of her. She quickly saw a taxi and without remembering she didn't have a dime on her anymore, she hopped in. By the time the driver got to Itunu's bus stop, he requested for his pay. "Madam, give me my money." But Itunu couldn't speak. She was still in shock of what she just saw. The driver shouted at her, "Pay me and come down, madam. We have reached your bus stop." Only then did Itunu start begging, "Please, I don't have any money on me. I was in danger, that's why I hopped in." But the driver wasn't having any of it. "See this thief, oh," he shouted. He stepped down from the car and started calling the attention of people. "Thief, oh, thief, oh," the driver shouted and people gathered. Before anyone could say jack, Itunu was dragged to the mud and people gathered. "Fine girl like you enter motor without money," one man said. But as the driver slapped and started harassing her, one of her neighbors who recognized Itunu ran straight home to call her mother, Madam Obi, who quickly followed the neighbor. Once Madam Obi got there, she heard what had happened. Then she untied the head of her wrapper and paid the 600 naira Itunu was owing the driver. She then dragged Itunu by her ear and took her home. That night, there isn't what Madam Obi didn't say to Itunu. So you left bike to go and enter taxi. You shameless girl. Your mate will go out and bring money, and you will go out and bring shame to me. What kind of useless firstborn child are you? Madam Obi screamed and said all sorts of nasty and descending things to Itunu, but never asked her where she went or what had happened. As Itunu sat down on her mat that night, tears streamed down her face. She was tired, drained and broken. She didn't have anyone to talk to. She remembered how her life was almost ended few hours ago because of 600 naira. She looked at her siblings on the floor and thought about her whole existence. Then the voice of Madam Ada's husband came to her head. $100,000. She picked up her phone and used her calculator to check the equivalent of the money in her local currency naira, which equated 160 million Nigerian naira. And she covered her mouth. That was a life-changing money for her. All the insults and all the name-calling will stop. The next day, Itunu picked up her phone and dialed the number again. The man picked up and she said, "I am ready." The voice at the other end said, "You know the address," then hung up. For the second time, Itunu dressed up, went into Madam Obi's handbag and stole the 2,000 naira she found. Her father and mother was sitting at the sitting room as she walked past them, straight to the door. She knew this was it. It's either she makes it back home with $100,000, dies there, or come back home and die in the hands of her mother. So she hurriedly left. As she got to the big mansion, her heart beat fast. She was welcomed by Madam Ada again. All you have to do is 5 minutes with Baby Naga. Let it touch you and caress you. Make Baby Naga happy and you will happily smile to the bank. So that day, Itunu walked into the room where the big snake lay, and surprisingly, the snake was friendly. Itunu fell unconscious immediately, and by the time she woke up, her body did not feel the same. She knew something had happened. After the job well done, $100,000 cash was handed over to her by Madam Ada's husband, and she left. That evening, Itunu returned home with quiet steps and a strange fire in her eyes. She was no longer the girl who begged for small coins at Lagos bus stops. As she stepped into the room, Madam Obi looked up, ready to unleash her usual thunderous voice. But before the woman could say a word, Itunu tossed a thick bundle of naira notes at her feet. "Use that," she said, her voice calm and sharp like a cold blade. Madam Obi gasped, picked up the money with trembling fingers and immediately changed her tune. "My daughter, the fruit of my womb, I always knew you would shine," she sang, forgetting all her insults, questions and warnings. From that moment, Itunu moved her family out of the crowded, smelly, face me, I face you building and into a fine house with tiled floors, running water and 3 toilets. Her parents slept on foam beds with bed frames for the first time in their lives. Her siblings, who once fought over plates of food, now wore neat uniforms in expensive boarding schools. They wrote letters home on weekends and talked about how their classmates envied their lunch boxes. As for Itunu, she moved into a separate house of her own, a mansion with marble floors, chandeliers like hanging stars and couches as soft as clouds. She bought herself perfume that smelled like foreign dreams, shoes that clicked like royalty, and wigs that danced in the wind. Sometimes she would walk into big boutiques on the island with quiet confidence and bought things without checking the price. She flew in airplanes, wore coats in cold places, and took photos at airports with bags full of things. Her social media was full of shiny things: designer dresses, spa dates, fine dinners, and big sunglasses. People whispered her name with admiration and envy. And to explain the sudden wealth, she opened a fashion house, Itunu Stitches, glowing in gold letters. Workers bowed when she entered. Customers smiled nervously. She had become a woman of power. But the more money she gave her parents, the deeper their pockets grew. Madam Obi, once content with wrappers and slippers, now called her vendors and shouted, "I need 15 human hairs. My daughter has money." And she meant it. Itunu's father wasn't any better. He collected fat envelopes of money and disappeared for days, sometimes weeks, sleeping in hotels, drinking bottles of expensive spirits, and flirting with women young enough to be his daughters. When Itunu tried to speak, he waved her off. "You're doing well, my daughter. Don't be stingy." One day, Itunu sat in her car, tired, her head pounding. She said, "Mama, I can't keep sending money like this. Business is slow." But Madam Obi only scoffed. "Business is slow? So what? Has God not blessed you? Are we the ones who made you rich? Are you now ashamed of your family?" The words pierced her like knives. Every time Itunu complained, she was made to feel guilty, like she owned the word. And so she kept quiet. After all, who would believe her if she had told the truth? Behind the diamonds and designer bags, there was a secret. She was still visiting Madam Ada's house, the house with secrets, silence, and one thing that kept her rich: Baby Naga. The great black snake curled up on satin sheets, always waiting. Each time she kept Baby Naga company, they paid her in dollars, $100,000 for every visit, clean, crisp, and life-changing money. And so, though her spirit shook, Itunu returned again and again, because once you taste wealth that flows like a river, it's hard to turn back even when the river turns dark. After 2 years of keeping the big snake company, Itunu started to change. Her skin, once fresh like morning dew, began to look dry and pale. Her cheeks sank in and her eyes lost their shine. The money was still coming, plenty of it, but something in her body was breaking slowly. What Itunu did not know was that each time she pleased the snake, it brought great riches to Madam Ada and her husband. The more Itunu gave herself, the richer they became. But she, the giver, was fading like smoke in Harmattan. Day by day, she grew weaker. Her laughter disappeared. Her steps became slower. She no longer went shopping or posed for pictures. She stopped going to the shop. She just lay in bed staring at the ceiling with tears rolling down her face. She couldn't speak. She couldn't eat. Her phone stayed untouched. Her life was slipping away like sand in open fingers. One afternoon, Madam Obi came into her room to ask for more money as usual. But when she saw her daughter laying still, looking like a shadow of herself, something touched her chest. For the first time, she became afraid. "Itunu, what is wrong with you?" she asked again and again. But Itunu said nothing, just tears. Madam Obi called doctors. They came with injections, tests, and machines, but each one said, "There's nothing wrong with her. She is fine." Yet Itunu was not fine. She was dying slowly, and no one could explain why. That was when the family began to panic. Her father, her mother, even her siblings, everyone started to weep. Madam Obi tied her wrapper tightly and began to fast and pray. Pastors were called, they poured oil, they shouted prayers, they clapped and sang, but Itunu kept getting worse. One quiet evening, as the lantern burned slow and the room smelled of dust and fear, Itunu felt something in her spirit, a knowing she was not going to make the next day. With tears already on her face, she asked them to gather her parents, her siblings, and her lawyer. They all came and sat close. The room went still. Then Itunu opened her mouth to speak. Her breath was weak, her eyes heavy with tears. She called out softly, "Mama, Papa, do you remember when I was small, before the hunger came, before I became the one feeding this whole house? I used to think you were my heroes. I thought that if I worked hard enough, if I gave you everything, one day you will look at me with love, the way other parents look at their children, but you never did. You gave me the burden of a whole family, 8 mouths, before I even knew what it meant to be grown. You made me stop school. You sent me to the streets to walk, to beg, to borrow, even to lie. And when I came back with nothing, you called me selfish. You told me I didn't love you enough. You said I was not trying. And I believed you, so I gave more. I gave you my childhood. I gave you my strength. I gave you everything I had, even my health. When nothing was left, I still pushed harder because I wanted you to love me. But now, look at me. I am dying." She turned her eyes to her younger brothers and sisters. "My sweet siblings, come close." She held their hands gently. "Don't follow the path I followed. Don't let anyone make you feel like your worth depends on how much you give. You're already enough. You deserve love. You deserve rest and you deserve to be children. If it ever gets too hard, run. Choose yourselves. Even if they call you names, even if no one claps for you, don't end up like me." Then she looked at her parents again. "As for the money I made," her voice grew stronger for a moment, "it is not for you. I am giving it all to orphanages, to shelters, to children like me, children who are told that they are nothing. Let them know that they matter. Maybe, just maybe, one girl out there will get a chance to live, to really live." She took one last breath. "Mama, Papa, look at me well. This is what your love did to me. I don't hate you. I am not even angry. I am just sad. Because even now, a small part of me still loves you. But I am tired, so tired. And for once in my life, I am choosing myself. Goodbye." And with that, her eyes slowly closed. Her spirit left gently like wind passing through dry leaves. A loud cry came from Madame Obi's mouth. She tore her wrapper and fell to the ground, wailing. Her father sat down quietly, weeping like a child. They knew. The shame covered them like a heavy cloth. They never forgave themselves. The big house was sold. The cars vanished. They returned to the slums where it all began, where guilt became their companion and the memory of Itunu haunted them forever. Morals of the story. 1. Parents must protect, not exploit. A child is not a bank. Itunu's story shows how dangerous it is when parents place the burdens of adult survival on the shoulders of their children. Parents should guide, not use. When they fail in their duty of care, the child suffers in silence and sometimes, like Itunu, pays the ultimate price. 2. Choose yourself even when it hurts. If you keep pouring from an empty cup, one day there will be nothing left of you. Itunu gave and gave until she had nothing left, not even her life. In the end, her most powerful act was finally choosing herself, not out of selfishness, but survival. Loving others should never mean losing yourself. Your life matters too. 3. Do not let love blind you to abuse. When love becomes guilt and care becomes control, that is not family, that is bondage. Itunu was made to feel guilty for not doing enough, even when she had nothing left to give. Her family used emotional manipulation to keep her silent and obedient. But real love doesn't drain or shame, it uplifts. You have the right to set boundaries even with those who raised you. 4. Generational cycles must be broken. If you do not break the chain, your children will wear it too. In her final breath, Itunu begged her siblings not to follow her path. Her death became a message. Choose yourself. Say no when it gets too much and build a new story, one where love does not come with a price tag. 5. Wealth without peace is a beautiful cage. All the gold in the world means nothing if your heart is empty and your spirit is broken. Even with money, cars, and a fashion empire, Itunu was not truly free. Her wealth was tied to sorrow, secrecy, and sacrifice. True riches are joy, health, and peace of mind. 6. Desperation can lead to dangerous choices. When a person is pushed too far, they may walk through fire just to feel warmth. Poverty and pressure drove Itunu to make a deal with darkness. In chasing survival, she gave up pieces of her soul. Desperation is a warning sign. It means help is needed, not judgment. Thank you all for watching. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share. Stay tuned on this channel for more stories like this. Bye for now.